So as always with field trips, I won't see you beforehand, so please come prepared for the field trip by going over the information that's posted for you on D2L ahead of time. This week's field trip will have to do with soils and silvics and kind of making matches of forest soils and the silvics of the trees that are growing on those soils. So this is the handout, the lab that you'll be getting for this. Just to briefly kind of go over this together. A few things information I want you to gather when you're in the forest is the forest stand information. So forest cover type, you're going to get this information from Big Blue, and these are from the readings that you're doing. Okay, so what is the forest type that we're looking at? Is it upland oaks? Is it early successional hardwoods, things like that. Evidence to support the decision, that is information that you should be getting from Big Blue, basically from your readings telling you this is why it's that species. Okay, we'll go over some of this information in the field when we get there, but overstory information, okay, give me an overview of what the overstory composition is, intermediates and the understory, and relative age. Okay, so that's stuff that we'll be gathering when we're on site. Going down the page, forest stand stage. This is from our lecture series. Okay, it's stand initiation, stem exclusion. That's about at this stage where we're at. We'll get into stand reinitiation later on, and then in a few weeks, old growth. So we'll get to those, but we're going to be concentrating on these first two, stand initiation and stem exclusion, because that's where we're at so far in the course. So you're going to look at evidence of what you know from those stages so far to help you to support what stage the forest is at, and then sketch an image of the forest stand. Just a simple one stick is kind of always the easiest when we're just generalizing the stand, what it looks like. Okay, so so you'll sketch that out, a rough kind of estimate of what the forest stand looks like. Going on down, topographic information. Again, more things that we'll cover when we are outside and have some tools in our hands, but we'll look at the slope percentage. If that applies, it doesn't always apply depending on if there's a slope. Same as aspect. And elevation we'll gather from some topographic data. So I'll have some map information in the lab that we'll apply for that. Soils data is the next piece of information, and this should be getting familiar to at this point, but just to reinforce what we know, I want to see a soil profile here, whatever it may be. So we'll do some augering to get that determined. Okay, so we'll get that information on site. Sketch, measure, and describe the soil profile found. So if you have your soils book, if you've purchased that, bring it along. Otherwise, I'll bring some information to help you work with this as well. And scrolling down, same thing, I'll have some information for soil texture, but we'll get that sorted out. Drainage in relation to slope, just as far as the hillside, right, the depression, or is it on the slope, the toe, at the crest, different areas like that, just to give an idea on where the water's running off or where it's pooling. Okay, next step, evidence of micro niche. That goes back to one of our very early lectures on one on stand initiation has information on a micro niche or microsites, but then the other one was on limitations to growth. Okay, so go back and check out those lectures for review. What I want you to do is, as you're working through the forest, look for evidence of microsites. Somewhere that there's something physical that you see on the ground or in the forest that may either make a good opportunity or a poor opportunity for trees to establish. Once you've done that, take a photograph of that. So bring a camera or your phone to take a good picture and explain basically how this, whatever it is you're photographing, is an opportunity. It creates an opportunity of a microsite. Okay. Once you've done all of that information, you've gathered the data that you need for this lab. There's some summary questions. So you'll need your you'll need your silvics manual to help with answering some of these. But first, select 3 tree species you found on your site for each species using the soil data collected in your silvics manual. Provide 3 silvical characteristics to support why, or possibly why not, if it's kind of out of place, the species is suitable for that site. So I want to know the whys now. We've got this tree growing on this site. Why is it happening? So give me your case. Next question. Imagine a major disturbance disrupted this forest stand today. Okay, so something major happened. And the example, to be more specific, a Southern Ontario woodlot. It's not uncommon to say this stand was logged. Okay, in 20 years, what species do you suspect will regenerate this stand? Okay, so if it's had a major disturbance, let's say it was a major harvest. Okay, so the forest has been thinned. There are some residual trees left. And that I will leave up to you because that can totally change, as you know. So you'll need to explain that process. Provide 3 silvical characteristics to support why you suspect the forest to develop or redeveloped in 20 years from today after the work was done. Okay. And last question. What factors are limiting the growth of new species on this site? Okay, so at this forest as you see it today, what is it about this site that is going to maybe encourage or hinder the development of new understory species? Okay, so what's going to make them survive or what may not? What is the limitations of growth, which takes us back to one of our very early lectures. Okay. If there's any questions, let me know, and we'll, again, when we meet up in the field, we'll go over some of these details that I mentioned in this talk.